Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. The young upstart Atlanta Hawks had hung in there against a formidable Philadelphia 76ers team that featured physically dominant all-stars in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Philly's whole process had led to this moment where they could advance to the conference finals and take on the Bucks, a matchup we missed in 2019 when Kawhi's ridiculous 4-bounce jumper fell through the net, and last year when an injury to Simmons derailed their postseason in the first round. And then this happened. Did you catch it? At the time, it didn't seem like that big of a deal. Ben Simmons had tiny Trae Young on him in the post, and the spin move to the baseline got him open before dumping it off to Matisse Thybulle. But his decision not to shoot this shot was a microcosm of his entire career in Philadelphia, and a huge reason why I've been saying for years that this pairing wasn't going to win a title together. Of course, this 3-shot foul on Kevin Huerter later in the game felt a lot more crucial to the outcome than Simmons' decision not to shoot, but the narrative had taken hold, and it wasn't long before the doubting started.
Doc, you think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to be done?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now. So I don't know the answer to that.
At this point, it seems clear Ben Simmons is not going to be on the Sixers this season. One thing holding up his departure is how much Daryl Morey is asking in return. It's an interesting question why Philly seems to think Simmons is worth so much, and one we have to ask before we can understand why they're so willing to trade him now, especially considering he's a non-shooting lead guard whose game ends up being an offensive liability once they get to the playoffs. Let's look at his best game of the season, a February matchup against the Jazz when Embiid was out with back problems and Simmons got to play minutes at center. Their most played lineup that night was 4 shooters around Simmons at the 5, and they had a positive 6.5 net rating. Impressive considering the final outcome saw the Sixers lose by 11 points. There might be only 5 players in the NBA who are more of a threat to score at the rim in transition than Ben Simmons. And because he's big, strong, fast, but can handle the ball well, there's not much smaller guards can do to stop the freight train once he gets going downhill, leading fans to stream into the arena to watch his highlights in real time. And it's the same kind of thing that can happen to your website if you use Squarespace. It's incredibly easy to set up, and every Squarespace template supports all major content types, from pages to galleries to blogs to commerce to calendars and more. I'm in the middle of setting up my new site, and I cannot wait to bring the conversation there with their powerful commenting features and member areas where you can generate revenue by providing an exclusive experience. Their easy-to-use platform allows you to manage members, send email communications, and leverage audience insights to help you create the kind of content your audience wants. You can even add online booking and scheduling. I'm going to utilize this feature to schedule sessions with players who want to improve their jump shots, so stay tuned. We know how willing Ben Simmons is to set up teammates with great passes, and it's the same kind of assist Squarespace will give you by clicking on the link below for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch your very own website, you can save 10% off your first purchase on a website or domain. That way, you'll get plenty of eyeballs to your site, just like Simmons raises my eyebrows with his extremely unique attempts at footwork, where he clearly favors his right-hand finishing. And you can see even Rudy Gobert has issues with his speed in the delayed fast break as he holds the X1 button down and even jumps off the right foot for a lefty finger roll high off the glass with touch. In the half court, notice how much space he gets as a roll man when 4 shooters surround him on the perimeter. With his power and length, it's very hard to stop these kind of rolls. They put Seth Curry in the right corner to act as a magnet to help the defense, so Ben gets into the body of Gobert for yet another awkward righty finish off the right foot that he gets to go in. Let's not forget his passing gene, which makes 2 points simultaneously. First, he's got excellent vision and touch as he shovels it back to Harris for an assist. Second, it's also evidence of his unwillingness to shoot the ball around the basket, as he clearly had a chance to go strong with his left hand over the front of the rim. And if you put a center on him and let him be the fulcrum of the offense, chances are he'll get by his man. With his clever fake handoff into crossover, Favors had no hope. and he still shoots this righty for the and one. With another split step that serves as the pass fake to the top, he takes advantage of Bogdanovic down low with a spin move into righty hook. All viable shots that he can generate when playing this role. Watching Simmons dominate in the open court would be the same thing as you smashing that subscribe button. Please subscribe, since that is as important to me as the transition game is to Simmons, and it was going so well for him against Utah with shooters all around that no one was willing to help off their men to stop him as he hits this twisting jumper from 8 feet away. And to top it off, play him in the traditional center role and he'll throw gorgeous dimes from the high post, like this backhanded lefty backdoor pass that generated an open reverse layup, and then finding a wide open corner three after realizing there wasn't much hope to muscle in a shot at the rim with Gobert in good position to defend. It was no accident that Simmons' best game was when Embiid was not on the floor. But it's not just that Simmons' best position is the same spot that Embiid plays, it's something more profound, considering the issues really arise only in the postseason, when the Sixers are playing the best defenses and teams have time to prepare and take advantage of Simmons' limitations playing at guard. Let's look at the fourth quarter of Game 7 versus the Hawks and figure out why Simmons becomes such a liability for them. In a normal NBA offense, with a player as dynamic and dominant as Joel Embiid, you'd see the other four players trying to give him as much space as possible to operate. It would make it easier for everyone, much like we saw in Utah when Simmons played center. Instead, you see him wander down to the right block and stand there, allowing Gallinari to effectively zone up, leaving Embiid with only one choice, to jab step into a free throw line jumper, which does indeed go in. By the way, it doesn't help that you've got a non-shooter in Thibault in the corner and Milton goes to hang out with him, allowing Herter and Lou to get in the way as well. Down 3 early in the fourth, we see the transition effect from Simmons I was telling you about. He gets into the lane, lures Capella to him, opening up a nice back pass to Embiid for a wide open 3. Down 1, the Sixers run some flex action for Embiid as he gets the slice screen first before getting his own pin down, which opened up a wide open shot for Milton. Embiid decides to attack Capella from the free throw line, but there's Simmons again just standing on the lane line, allowing his man to effectively take away any potential drive. Thibault doesn't help by wandering to the elbow, and it leaves Embiid with another jab step fadeaway that he hits. If you imagine what a championship caliber team would do on offense in a tight Game 7, you'd picture getting your point guard and your center running pick and roll. But you simply won't see that at all from the Sixers. In fact, with this lineup on the floor, it's more embarrassing where Embiid's teammates are standing. It looks like a game from the 90s. And this is as much on Doc Rivers as it is on Simmons, as Embiid is left to take a very hard fadeaway along the baseline. The theme we'll keep harping on is that Simmons tends to not look at the basket to score despite being in position to create something. You can see the Simmons sag on virtually every play, and yet the offense continually had him initiate with a handoff, something that can get blown up easily when his man can sink so low without fear of him looking at the basket to score. It's not to say Philly couldn't score out of these actions, it's just that it makes it harder on everyone else with tougher shots. What does work is when they actually run ball screens for him. I know his defender will go underneath, but the subtle adjustment is to set the screen lower, where the defender actually is, allowing Simmons to get going like a freight train to the rim. It seems so simple to just have the ball screener near the elbow or lower. As you can see, he doesn't meet resistance till he's at the low block, and his passing is elite to find cutters. They even set screens for him in the post, another great way to create shots close in, where he can use his muscle to take advantage of the space created from the screen. I've been saying they need to get him receiving a ton more handoffs. Instead of being the guy who does the handing off, let him turn the corner and get into the lane utilizing his speed and strength. It's a no-brainer, yet according to Synergy, he did not get one handoff in the entire playoffs. It should not have been that hard for Doc to influence the offense enough to make Simmons more of a threat in the half court. And it's unclear why, as the Hawks series dragged on, that Simmons drifted farther and farther away from the action with the ball. This fast break off the gorgeous block from Thibault is a good example. Instead of utilizing his speed and ball handling like we saw in the regular season, where he should have continued his dribble to the middle of the floor and split these two slower defenders, he just jumps it off above the three-point line, leaving Harris to create under pressure, and they come up empty. Up one and looking to increase the lead, it's Tobias Harris running point and Simmons wandering down to that left block. Harris has to tell them twice to get out of that position because his man will get in the way too easily. That does allow Harris to get to the basket, but he just misses the lefty finger roll over the good contest from Capella. While Simmons brings a lot to the table defensively, he makes a costly mistake to reach in from one pass away, allowing the very easy pass back to his man for an open look that cuts their 4-point lead to 1. Here's the set Doc relied on a lot in the series, with Curry making an Iverson cut to the right wing, then flowing into a two-man game with Embiid. Notice how Simmons just wanders down to that left block again, allowing Gallo to hover in the lane as an extra defender. But once Capella gets caught out of position here, it's an easy pass back and open shot that Curry knocks down. In the tie game with just over 5 minutes to go, I want you to notice how marginalized Simmons is in their offense. He's relegated to the weak side with Thibault, the equivalent of having to play right field in Little League, while the other three work to get a shot off, which ultimately misses with no time left on the shot clock. Remember how dominant Simmons can be in transition. So I'm sure you can hear me shaking my head when he doesn't even look to the basket despite having Kevin Huerter back to stop him. To make matters worse, the whole offense dies once he goes and stands at the block. He's gone from one of the more dynamic players who can score at the basket in a variety of ways and set teammates up for easy shots with great passes to the kind of player coaches try to hide along the baseline and hope he doesn't catch the ball. Fortunately for the Sixers, Embiid hits yet another jab step foul line jumper, the only option he had. This brings us to the moment of truth. Down 2 with 3.5 minutes left, having barely posted up all series long, the Sixers now turn to Simmons and say, "Hey, go win us this game." On the spin move, Gallinari deflects the ball loose on a nice defensive play. That got Simmons under the basket farther than he wanted to be. I can see why it would make sense to him to give the ball up to Thibault. Heck, Thibault could have handed it right back to Simmons for the layup. But the context is, Simmons won't look to shoot it down the stretch for fear of getting fouled. And that was a legitimate fear. The guy shot 33% from the foul line in this series. Another reason Doc would want to hide him far away from the ball in crunch time. While you could argue that 1 point per possession is good, with Thibault splitting the pair of free throws, it's simply not good enough when you're down 2 with such little time left. You need to hit both of these to stay in the game. Now they're down by 3, and I swear this isn't a replay, folks. After the double ball screen for Harris, not Simmons, you'll see Ben just go out and hang by the left block. My first instinct is to say there's no way a coach drew up this pattern in their offense. Most guys would screen and then cut away to the perimeter, even if he isn't a threat, just to get him out of there. Embiid felt he had an advantage with Collins on him, but I'm not sure why he picked the side Gallinari was already standing on to attack. But to make matters worse, why the heck is Tobias Harris cutting into the lane here? It brings Capella right to the help, forcing Embiid to add more arc to his hook and badly missing the short shot. The first nail in the coffin was on this possession, as they put Simmons on Young. Here's a reason I don't like hedging the pick and roll as Curry does here. He essentially sets a screen on his own man. Plus, Ben shows zero sense of urgency to stay glued, and despite Trey's shooting issues, he reminds everyone how dangerous he is. It's no accident that when Simmons sets a screen above the free throw line and stays up there, it opens up the basket area for a drive where Harris can get the tough lefty layup to fall. Putting Simmons on Young does pay off here, as he uses his reach to knock the ball loose, and it ultimately turns into a bad turnover to keep the Sixers' hopes alive. However, they simply foul him to take away the advantage, where he promptly misses 1 of 2. Again, this simply isn't good enough when there are hardly any possessions left in this game. Remember, this isn't cherry-picking a play here and nitpicking a play there. It's a systemic issue rooted in both Simmons' inability to make free throws at a decent rate and his unwillingness to be a threat from outside the lane. Down 3 with the season on the line, the word marginalized comes to mind as we just watch Ben stand on the right block and the action unfold as Tobias Harris creates something off the dribble. It got to the point where Doc Rivers had to bench him, but remember the play where I said there's no way the offense could be designed like what they were actually running? Well, Tobias Harris wanders down to the same left block just like Simmons does all the time, and it allows his man Collins to jump in the way, indirectly causing this game-ending turnover by Embiid. The Embiid-Simmons pairing has lasted 4 years, and in my opinion, 2 years too long. And it's not to say there are specific teams where Ben can be his best self, but he just happens to be on a team with the best player in the league at the position Simmons himself needs to play to be effective. Had they tried to break this pairing up a season or two ago, they probably could have gotten a lot more value back. But now their hand is forced, as Simmons probably won't show up for training camp, and Philly can't afford the distraction considering they have their own sights on a title as soon as possible. So keep your eye on some teams that have a hole in the middle and a high draft pick. Those are the teams Simmons had better hope he gets traded to, considering the odds he fixes his broken shooting stroke go down every year.